Hey guys, we're back again, and today's video is going to be somewhat of a follow-up on a previous video I did about the brand known as PsychwardUSA. If you haven't seen that video, I'll try to do a little bit of a catch-up here. There's basically this brand online known as PsychwardUSA, which has a lot of different controversial designs. A lot of rappers ended up wearing it, and it became very famous within the underground. Each print was getting more and more popular, people were pre-ordering, and for a while it seemed like it was running smoothly, but eventually it seemed that people weren't getting their orders anymore. If they did get their orders, they weren't printed the best, so they were poor designs, and a lot of people started to talk about it, and it was found out that this wasn't an isolated incident because there was over 400 people who didn't receive orders from this brand, leading many online to start to call it a scam. So in my video I put together all that evidence and tried to show that this was happening in hopes of getting a response from Mike Molly, the guy who actually owns the brand, and surprisingly I actually did get a response from him, and pretty quickly as well. At first I thought he was going to be mad for me making the video, but he actually seemed to be pretty cool about it and wanted to explain himself and why things are happening the way that they are. So I would say still watch that first video to get the context, but this is his response. So everything I say in this video is not my own opinion. I'm merely saying what he said to me, trying to show the evidence on his side and give both sides of the story their own chance. It doesn't mean that I'm endorsing what he has to say. It doesn't mean I fully believe it, but I do want to tell both sides of things, because if I only talk about how it's a scam and don't let him respond, if I were to do something like that, I'd basically be inciting a witch hunt on the guy, not giving him a chance to speak, and he actually wanted to respond. He's not running away from it, so at the very least I have to give him props for that and try to explain his side of the story as best as I can. But he did tell me in the interview he'd have everything shipped out within 2 months, so if he is lying about all of this, it's pretty clear to see that things won't be shipped out in 2 months, and then we can come back to this topic and talk about it again. But for now, I do want to give him a chance to actually resolve the situation, and hopefully everybody will actually get what they ordered. But before that, I do want to mention one other person involved in this situation, how a lot of people seem to be kind of upset that I put Pouya in the thumbnail in the previous video, because he wasn't actually involved in the company in the way that he owns stock or he's actually in charge of it. He only does freelance work with them, or they do freelance work with his company, All But Six. So it was never my intention to call him a scammer or say that he was part of this scam, but it is important to note that Pouya has given this company a lot of attention and clout. I'm not saying he's responsible for what they do, but whether or not he's involved, he probably wants to know if a company under his wing that he's doing freelance work with is scamming. The intention was only to give that context. I didn't want it to seem like Pouya was actually out there scamming or being on top of the company, and the only reason I mentioned that he takes down videos that are negative about him is because he actually does do that. So I figure the dude with the most money, who really can't take negative criticism on himself whatsoever, might take the video down. But no, he's not a stockholder. No, he's not involved in the situation. When it comes to the prior scamming before they worked with All But Six, since Mike Molly has worked with All But Six, it seems like things are actually going out. So no, Pouya is not a scammer. He's not involved in that way, but for context in the situation, he does deserve to be in the thumbnail. Now that I talked about all of that, let's get to the actual meat and potatoes of this video and why Mike Molly can't ship out those orders that he promised to ship out in the first place, or at least wasn't able to in 2022. So when Mike started his company, he was working at a print shop. This is what he was doing for his 9 to 5 work. He was working there every day, making a paycheck, and then taking that paycheck and putting it back into his own brand, being PsychWard, and that was how he was getting stuff printed for cheap, sending it out, and basically breaking even.
I was still working at that print shop. It used to be called Express Printing, and at first I was working under them and screen printing, putting my whole paycheck from the screen printing like for them. Like whenever they'd pay me bi-weekly, I would just give them my whole paycheck.
This is how PsychWard got its start and how it was run for the first couple years that it was on the market. It was able to break even every time. He was getting more and more popularity, working with Lil Keed, everything I said in the previous video. But eventually the shop that he was working at ended up selling off their assets or going out of business, something of that nature, and he ended up opening up his own print shop, and this is where he really started to gain a lot of attention. He was able to get more employees on board, and he was really building up PsychWard into a real brand.
So I figured, well, I know how to screen print. I had worked at a screen print shop that did huge contracts, and they taught me everything I knew. And based on the amount of income that I was bringing in, I opened up the print shop and I started hiring. It was like 5 homies to start off with for screen printing and shipping.
As time went on, his designs got more and more edgy, kept pushing the line, and he eventually created a shirt called the Columbine tee, and this got reposted by the media. Somebody put it on Instagram and said it was a very edgy design, and it seemed like he was trying to do anything to get attention.
So what happened was, in July, when we released the Columbine tee, we had no issues. We re-released it. It was, if I'm not mistaken, it was October 28th of 2022 for the Nights of Horror Volume 2 collection. When we released it, that t-shirt alone got so much Twitter coverage. Like 10K people liked it, but it was a tweet that said, look at some of the dumb shit that streetwear brands nowadays do for attention.
And this caused some people who were offended by the design to go to Shopify and try to report it down because they didn't like the fact that he was trying to profit off of a tragedy.
and they posted a product linked from my Shopify on that Twitter thread, and a bunch of snowflakes. Like, trust me, don't get me wrong, it's an offensive topic, so I kind of get why they reported it.
And Shopify is basically this website where you can host your own website off of and sell product. That's what he was doing all his business through. And the way that it was working is, once again, he was only breaking even. So he was able to ship out orders, get pre-orders, get all the money, keep his employees employed and fed, and keep everything running.
So, like, at the time, it was really just max like 50 to 100 t-shirts every collection, and it was bi-weekly. I would close the site, ship all of them out because they were all printed by the time the site closed, and then shipping process was like 3 days. Drop the orders off, wait for the customer to get them, and then I'd start rolling out the leaks for the upcoming capsule that was on pre-order as well.
But he wasn't actually making a profit. He was making just enough to keep things running, keep putting the clothes out, getting people what they wanted. But after everybody went and reported his designs for being overly edgy, Shopify decided to freeze all the money that he got for pre-orders, being over $20,000. And because of that, all the money he had already spent to print the designs was already spent, which caused his bank account to drop to minus $22,000. So Shopify had to look over all the funds that they had frozen, and eventually they did confirm that they were real and were able to send it to him. But the reason that they weren't actually able to put it in his bank account is because he was marked as a high risk seller. That was because his actual bank account was in the negative, and not only in the negative, but like $20,000 in the negative. So after that, he had to lay his employees off. He had all the product, but he couldn't ship it out because he didn't have the money to do so, and the business basically stopped running. And this all happened around 2022, and this is the reason why a lot of people didn't end up getting their product right away. He also didn't have anybody working in customer service to be able to actually answer anybody who was looking for an order. It was only him running it, and he had no money to keep himself afloat. So for the next little bit, he wasn't able to ship anything out. He started working a 9 to 5, and he was doing freelance work, so that's why more designs were popping up on the Instagram page while the old designs weren't getting shipped out. People kept doing chargebacks, so that caused further problems. As time went on, he wasn't able to rectify the situation. He got more and more overwhelmed, so he wasn't able to ship out more product. He wasn't responding to people, and eventually people started to think, what's going on here? They were giving him a lot of allowance. It was like a year, and then 1 year turned into 2, and eventually people were thinking, you know, I gave him a lot of chances to send stuff out. I know that he's a small business. He's trying to get everything to everybody when he can, but it's been 2 years and he's not really responding. It seems like he's trying to take a step back and maybe just run off with the bag. And that probably would have been the end of the situation, with Mike Molly not being able to get himself out of debt, not shipping anything out, and being known as a scammer. But this is when Fat Nick steps into the situation. It turns out that he actually liked Mike Molly's designs so much from previous drops that he decided to hire him on to do a little bit of freelance work for his brand. And then after that, he was able to get in with Pouya, and he did freelance work for him as well. And the reason that he was able to produce product for All But Six is because he was getting paid up front, so he wasn't dealing with the whole getting pre-order money and then shipping it out and breaking even. He was getting the money, then producing the product and putting it out through their channels. By working alongside them all through 2023, he was able to get himself out of debt, and now he has the money back from Shopify. He's working through Wix now, and he showed me a picture of all the stuff that he hasn't shipped out yet. He has intentions of shipping it all out in the next 2 months. His prior mentor, who worked at the other shop that he was employed at, is now working alongside him, so they both have a 50-50 split of the company.
He told me, well, you know what, since you couldn't buy this company out, I'll mentor you through building your own company. So that's kind of where I got started. I started doing a lot of freelance design work, started picking up more clients until I raised up enough capital and saved it. Like that, I'm really grateful to be in the art position that I'm in.
So hopefully he's able to keep him on track and make sure that orders get out and they don't fall into the same pit holes again. So that's the main explanation that he gave me for why he wasn't able to ship out the orders that people had pre-ordered. He said in the next 2 months, everybody should have their product. He told me it's basically the Zodiac hoodie that still needs to be shipped out. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but that's what he told me. So once again, I'm saying this is his words, not mine. But that's not the only criticism that people have with him, because there's also the fact that a lot of the product that he ships out doesn't seem to be the way that it looks online, and it seems like it's actually poor quality. There's one product in particular that people are talking about. It's the $6.66 shirt that apparently he ended up giving to a third-party company to produce. That's why he said it came out in such poor quality. Apparently they looked it up online, saw how much he was selling it for, and decided to skimp out halfway through.
But I guess the people that I outsourced the labor to, they did a little bit of research on me and found out how much I was selling them for. So I guess they were okay with slacking off mid-production.
Which does make sense, but at the same time, I feel like Mike should have taken a look at all these shirts and made sure they were up to the quality that he wanted. I know it's a third party and you suspect that they will give you an actual decent product, but at the same time, when you're putting your name on it, you want to make sure it's the highest quality. So he did mess up there, but the explanation does make sense. I definitely understand getting upset at somebody when you give them work to do and they don't do it the way that you want, but at the same time, when you're the one who's actually in charge of the company, you're responsible for that. But that's why those products came out not in the best quality, but he says the quality will improve with each new drop. So we'll have to see if that actually comes true. But the final thing that people criticize him for is flexing money online, and he told me that the reason that he was flexing that $100,000 in the previous video was actually an out of context clip. Apparently in that video he was talking about how his mom's friends were always making fun of her because their son ended up dropping out of college, but now that he made this much money, she could tell them all that he was still doing well with his endeavors.
In that clip, when I had said that, Stay Grounded actually left out the beginning of it, of that sentence. It was along the lines of me basically telling like my audience that a lot of my mom's friends at the time, they would put her down and tell her like, yo, your son dropped out for something that's so unrealistic. Like, my daughter's going to nursing school. My daughter's going to become a lawyer and make 100,000, 200,000 a year. Your son's just a bum, like making art like on his computer. So that whole term, like that clip, I was saying like all those friends that my mom got made fun of, like now she can turn to them and tell those friends that have kids that were going to college for something they didn't want to do in the first place, that her son is doing what he loves, made $100,000 off of his dreams.
I mean, that kind of makes sense actually in the context where they cut it. It did seem like he was talking about his mom. Once again, it seems like it's kind of short-sighted, but of course, after people are mad at you, they're going to take everything you've ever done in your life and try to throw it at you. I'm not saying Mike is completely innocent. This is just what he's telling me, but it does make sense that he was just talking about his mom here.
Because of you guys. In 1 year, y'all are crazy. 115K. She's able to brag that her college dropout son made 6 figures.
And not really trying to flex the money. And the final criticism that people have for him is that he doesn't answer his Instagram DMs, and the reason for that is that apparently on his website he now has an active helpline where if you have an order that hasn't been shipped, you can put your number in there and talk to somebody in real time who will help you figure out what's going on. People do you have working in customer support?
As of right now, there's 2 agents, only because now our new customer support, our database is live chat. So we consistently get notifications for live chat, to where our agents can simply respond or get on a voice call and communicate one-on-one with the actual person in need of support.
He told me the reasoning for that is because a lot of people were hitting him up on Instagram saying that their friend didn't get an order, that their family member didn't get an order, and he wasn't able to really keep track of what was going on. So he said that he needs to get the actual order number so he can then ship it out after that.
So there's no longer this whole wait time of a day to get an email back the following business day. It's right then and there, and it's super simple to resolve orders, process refunds. I'm just waiting for that to get finalized, since we had to get a custom code sourced for that and integrated into our website platform.
I hope it really works the way that he says, and if it does, then everybody go there. And with all that said, I want to say one more time, this isn't an endorsement of everything he has to say or me trying to run defense for him. I just wanted to let his side of the story be told, because at the end of the day, I think everybody just really wants to receive their product. It's not fun to get scammed, and I can see why a lot of people are upset. But if he actually ships out the product that he promised people in the first place, I'm not going to say that's going to make everything better, because after all, it still has been 2 years. But if this explanation is actually true and he ships out all the product in the next couple months, then that will at least make things a little bit better, because people will get what they paid for or get their money back or some form of resolution, because I really don't want to believe that he just sat with me on an interview for an hour long and lied to my face. But once again, that interview will also be coming out at the same time. The only reason I made this video on the main channel is because I wanted all the people who saw the first video to also see this one as well. I feel like if I put the first negative video on the main channel and then put the interview on the second channel, it would make it seem like I was trying to push his story to the back. I wanted to make sure that both sides got the same representation and got to be seen by the exact same audience. But with all that said, I want to give Mike the chance to actually say what happened in his own words in a shorter version than the actual interview. So if you want to check that out, it will be linked below. It will drop the same time that this video drops. But if you just don't have time to watch an hour-long interview, I understand that. So here's the shortened down version. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel, Knife Gang, second channel, that's where it will be. Now Mike, take it away.
Yeah, for sure. Feel free to post it on your story, man. I did want to clarify, though, that the guy was getting a lot of information wrong. He said that Shopify held 10,000. They held 18.75K. And I have JFith as a witness to that. They put a reserve funds hold on my account, not because of back charges. It was because of a violation on my store that flagged that reserve funds hold account due to, it's like a probationary period, something that they do to your account to make sure that you're not doing the wrong thing again. But that's what they did to my account when I released my Columbine tee, and it made over $10,000. And I'm not saying this to brag. This is me giving you numbers. This is me giving you proof. I have all the email statements too of Shopify disclaiming that they were holding 19.5K at first before they released 1.5K of that to me, which wasn't even enough to cover shipping. So they've had this income stuck in a reserve funds hold account due to that sale product violation that violated their community guidelines and service guidelines. And it kind of put me at a standstill. Do I regret posting that shirt? No, not at all. But at the same time, I do feel for these customers that are upset, and I'm aware of it, and I'm doing everything that I can. You got to understand, it's already been 2 years that these people have locked 20,000 of my supporters' hard-earned income and haven't let me touch it at all to even file refunds.